Another thing I wanted to bring up is just how shady lawyers are. The defense was horrific. The defense was horrendous. The defense was horrendous, I'm not gonna lie. There was one point where he was actually laughing at the alleged injuries to the alleged victim, and I'm just like, bro, this is not a good look for your defendant. I would be pissed if I was the defendant. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my experience with jury duty. I really wanted to talk about this because as somebody who never in their 33 years thought that I would ever serve jury duty ever, I was gobsmacked, dumbfounded, very much surprised when I was actually called to serve as a honest to goodness juror. So I want to just start it back from the beginning. I had jury duty. I got a summons. I've had to go in before, but I've never actually had to serve on a jury. And for years and years and years, I took a lot longer than most people to finish college. And so I was always able to check that box, student, and got out of it. So for the first, 27, maybe 28 years of my life, I never even had to go in. Not just because of college, but also I was moving back and forth at the time. And so there was like a lot of address changes. Anyway, did not have to go in. Then as I finally started to have a little bit more of a stable living situation, I started getting jury duty again. And just like the summons, I would never get called, or if I got called, I would have to go in physically. And it was like a weird experience the first time I actually had to go in physically, and I walked in, and after like 10 minutes, they said something to the effect of like, first, people with last names A through C can go home, or something like that. And so I was so excited. I was like, yes, I can go home. So I never had to go in. I should say I never had to serve. It never crossed my mind that I would ever have to, because neither of my parents, both of whom are over 60, have never had to serve either. They've had to go in. Sometimes they've had to drive out of town to do it, but they've never actually had to serve. They've had to take time out of their day as one does, but they've never actually had to be on a jury. So I just thought, it's just not something that most people get called to do. Apparently, I'm not most people, and I got called, and I was not happy initially. I felt there is this feeling of being held hostage when you're sitting there, you can't leave, and you're just like, okay, now even down to when you can and can't go to the bathroom, a judge is the one telling you when you can and can't go. So there is that feeling. Part of the purpose of this video is for people who haven't had to do it and who are all of a sudden called. I kind of just want to encourage you, if you land in a situation where you did not think you were going to get called to serve, and you're upset, you're going to be fine. You're going to get through it. It is a little bit of an intense process, and especially if you get a case like I did, which was a domestic violence case. I'm not going to get into the details too much of the case for several different reasons, but it was a really, really intense case to begin with. So on the one hand, some people are like, okay, that's good, because at least you're not going to be bored. Despite all of that, you can still get bored. You can still get really tired. By 1:30, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., you are dying, and half the jurors, in my case, were complaining of struggling to stay awake, because it's a lot of legal jargon. It's a lot to sit through, even if the topics are interesting or compelling. So basically what happens is you get called, you get selected, the judge announces this is the jury, you are the jury, and then you have to sit through instructions. And so there was kind of some instruction giving time that was provided to us on the first day on Thursday. So I got called to come in on a Wednesday, and we did not determine who the jury was until the very end of the day on Wednesday. So the trial wasn't even able to start until Thursday morning, as I can recall. So there's a lot of legal instructions that the judge is required to give to the jury. And so that's kind of the thing that you You very much have to rely on what the judge is telling you and what they reiterate over and over and over again, especially through jury selection. Just because you may have served on a jury on another case does not mean that those instructions are going to apply here, because every case is different. The laws that are being applied are different in each case. From, you might have one law that's the same and 3 laws that are different or something like that. There's a lot of laws. And so you're likely not going to be doing exactly the same thing from case to case, and you are required to base your decision-making process based on what the judge tells you. This is what it has to be. And in my case, we had to use the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt in order to come to the conclusion that this person was guilty, and anything that was not beyond a reasonable doubt, he must be presumed innocent. So that was intense. And right away for me, as I'm a very scrupulous, legalistic type of a person, I feel the weight of this immediately. And it only gets worse as I get to the deliberation a couple of days later. You go in, and the way it works in California courts, and the one that I participated in, is in the morning you go and you wait in the jury room, and then they call you and they tell you when you can go in the courtroom. You do not go to the courtroom unless they tell you you can go in there. We're also not allowed to speak to either the prosecution or the defense attorneys, anybody involved in the case, victims, witnesses. We are not allowed to talk to anybody. You have to wear badges to show you are on the jury. And even so much like the members, like anybody participating in the case who is not part of the jury, is not allowed to even talk to you, even to exchange pleasantries with you in the hallway. No one is allowed to interact with you, and that's one of the reasons why they make you wear the badges, so that they can see, oh, this person is a juror, I'm not allowed to talk to them. I wouldn't be surprised if people who are like working cases just see the badge and they don't even recognize whether it's a juror on their case or not, and they just ignore anybody who has the jury badge is a pariah, essentially, while the case is going on. Now, the jurors can talk to each other, but we were not allowed to talk about the case with each other until deliberation. So that was also hard, because you're kind of just confined with these 12. We actually had 14 people because we had 2 alternates. So we're confined with these 14 people for however many days this goes, and you're trying to find other things to talk about in the jury room, which is where we were all allowed to hang out if we didn't leave like for lunch or anything. And so we're all trying to find things to talk about that have nothing to do with the case, and you're kind of skirting around it, because the one thing you are allowed to talk about with anybody who's not on the case is scheduling. So you can talk about in terms of, oh, I think it might be done, closer to this time, or, I'm trying to plan my life around X, and so that the whole scheduling issue is difficult, because you're having to tell people that you're available, but you're not, but you can't tell them why. You can tell them you're on a jury, but you can't tell them what the case is about. Anyway, it's a whole thing, and that was really kind of difficult for me, just to not be able to talk about any of what I'm hearing, especially because some of it was, like I said, pretty heavy. It was heavy stuff, and it's not fun to have to live with that and not be able to talk about it with anybody while the case is ongoing. So another thing I wanted to bring up is just how shady lawyers are. Both the prosecution and the defense had their own issues. The prosecution, I would say, had less issues, but still a little bit shady. One of the things that she did, and we weren't able to see some of the evidence until the deliberation. We were able to have it talked about in the court in front of us as the jury, but we weren't able to see it. They didn't give us handouts of the evidence. I don't understand. I'm not 100% on all of the rules regarding this. There was a point where one of the witnesses was handed evidence of injuries that were incurred or allegedly incurred, and these were the photos of the evidence, and so she showed them to the witness, and then as the prosecuting attorney, she comes back to her area where she's sitting, and it kind of falls open so that the jury can see the images. And I thought that was really, I knew that was on purpose. Like from the beginning, I knew that was on purpose. The judge must have seen her do it and did not call her out. The defense didn't call her out. I don't know if it was inappropriate for us to see those images at the time because we act like it was evidence. We were allowed to look at those images during deliberation. So I don't know if that was like something we weren't supposed to see or not, but just thought it was an interesting tactical move. And then the defense was horrific. The defense was horrendous. The defense was horrendous, I'm not gonna lie. There was one point where he was actually laughing at the alleged injuries to the alleged victim, and I'm just like, bro, this is not a good look for your defendant. I would be pissed if I was the defendant. I would be super not happy with this. But there was kind of other things that he would do where he would basically like there was all this talk about, okay, there's these papers of what both sides have agreed are admissible as evidence, and there's things that were taken out or redacted so that the jury, it wasn't visible to the jury. And so then they would have like version 2, version 3, and so then version 3 was the one that was going to be displayed for the jury to see in court. And then he would pull out the wrong version and put that up there, and then the prosecution would get mad and say, no, this is not the one we agreed on, and so on and so forth. So it's just interesting things. It happened enough times that I felt like that could have been intentional on his part, but just, again, interesting things from the attorneys and how they operate. They're both trying to get, one up on each other and all that kind of thing. So lots of different interesting things on that front. I think that just the main takeaway that I took from this whole experience was there's a lot of pressure put on those poor people in the jury box like they've been ripped out of their regular lives. They don't know what's going on. And they're just expected to have some level of legal understanding. I did pre-law when I was in college, so I at least had some baseline, but I graduated when? 2016. It's been a bit. I have completely forgotten most of what I learned, so if that just tells you what my baseline is. Anyway, it was like being plucked out of your real life, put in this situation, and now you all of a sudden have to be you got to be an expert. You got to know. You've got to make decisions. You got to figure this out. You got to be critically thinking. You got to understand what's going on and all this stuff. So there's a lot of pressure put on everybody right out of the box. I appreciated that the judge that we did have was very respectful of us as the jury, understanding that, yeah, we were taken out of our normal lives and asked to do this thing, and it disrupted everyone's life. People having to take time off work. I lost out on a doctor's appointment I was waiting for. I had to have somebody come in and receive furniture for me, like all these things. Shout out, Dad. All these things that happened, and so I appreciated that the judge repeatedly was thanking us for our time and expressing his understanding that this was not what any of us really planned to do with our week. Certainly was not mine. So I did appreciate that, but I can't imagine having a judge that was less respectful and potentially rude to us. That would have sucked, and I've seen that happen on TV. I don't know how often, if that's a thing that happens in real life. It very well could be. Every judge is different. Every individual is different. Somebody might be having a bad day and take it out on the jury. I don't know. I appreciated that the judge in my case was very respectful of the jury, and I appreciated that. Another important thing to remember, that opening and closing arguments are not short and sweet like they are on TV. The prosecution's closing argument, I would suggest, was a little too long. It was very helpful. I'm not going to lie. It was very helpful going into deliberation, having all of that information in the way that she gave it, because I am a bullet point kind of a person. I like everything spelled out in just such a manner. Yeah, it was very, very long. By the time we all got done with closing arguments, it was 3 p.m. on a Friday, so we did not finish deliberation on Friday, although we could have. And then, so you walk into the deliberation room. This is the thing that hit me the hardest. You walk into that deliberation room, you're tired, haven't had a bathroom break in a hot second, and you're getting hungry because it's the end of the day. I wasn't eating enough as per the usual, just exhaustion all around. It's a stressful, high stress situation to be in. So you walk in there and bam, everybody's got opinions. And initially we selected a foreman, and he's like, okay, so where do we want to start? And everybody's just kind of hemming and hawing. And I said something like, you know, we haven't been allowed to talk about it for so long, we don't know where to start. And then that kind of was the dam breaking, and everybody, all of a sudden, everybody has opinions. People that I thought were going to be gung-ho one way were on another, you know, in another train of thought altogether. So it was a very much overwhelming situation, and I did have questions. While I did end up voting a certain way, I did have questions from the outset because I didn't understand all of the legal jargon. There was one of the charges in particular where I was like, I do not get this. I need this explained. So I learned very quickly, there's a reason why there's 12 of you, because some of you are going to have a better understanding and a better grasp than others and can help lift those members up. And then other people are gonna point things out that you wouldn't have ever noticed. And so there's just all kinds of these different aspects that kind of come into play. And you are, and the judge even encouraged this, you are allowed to be persuaded by other members of the jury to vote one way or the other, but you are not allowed to vote a certain way because you feel somebody else wants you to, or because you feel pressured into doing it. And if you do that, then you can get in a lot of trouble. So that was another added element of pressure. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't feeling like I was being pushed into anything, which is another reason why I was glad ultimately that it went into the next couple of days, because I was able to work it out in my mind. I'm the kind of person, I don't like to make serious decisions on the spur of the moment. I like to go home and at least sleep on it once. Even if I've already made, I probably will have the same decision in my head from the time that I leave until the time I come back, which is exactly what happened here. However, I felt so much more confident going in on Monday with my decision, having had a couple of days to think about it, than I would have on Friday. And it was really hard because the hardest thing you will do is sit there and watch a guilty verdict be read, and watch the defendant's face, and watch the defense attorney's face, and the family members that might be sitting there. It sucks. It is not fun. And that was probably one of the things that was stressing me out the most, is having to sit there and watch this happen. But I so sympathize with the movie 12 Angry Men now, because all I can think of was how much harder would it be if I wasn't confident in my decision, and if I didn't feel like I was voting with my conscience and beyond reasonable doubt, meeting that threshold. And it would have been so much harder. And the defense was pissed because we did not vote in a way that the defense wanted, and they requested the jury be polled and all that stuff. And so again, you are swearing everything you say in court from the time you are sworn in as a juror until you leave. You are swearing that you believe this is beyond reasonable doubt, or whatever it is that you're voting. Anyway, so that whole experience was very, very stressful. And I don't know how much this is going to help somebody who is either just went through jury duty for the first time, or is just curious of what it's like to actually sit on a jury. I was juror number 12, by the way. I'm going to write a book about that. The whole deal for me is just that, first of all, there's a bit of it that makes it feel, you realize that this system was created by people that were running around in basically like wild west style. Like, it's such a chaotic system. You are inundated with information for several days as a newbie, as somebody who has never done this before, and then you're spit into a room. Bailiff comes in, gives you directions, shows you where the bathroom is, locks the door, and you're in there with 12 people going at each other like, here's my opinion, here's what's going on here, here's what I think, all this stuff. And it's Wild West. It's Wild West. And the pressure, even though we all came to the same conclusion in different ways, the pressure of just that was pressure I have never experienced before. And I hope I don't experience it again, but we'll see. Apparently, once you've been picked for a jury once, you're more likely to be picked again. So anyway, that's my story. That is what happened to me in my jury duty experience. I got ice cream after that. It was very stressful. I didn't really. I may be my moniker online is Warrior Woman 91, but fun fact, I don't actually like conflict. Yeah, it's a dirty little secret. I shouldn't say I don't like conflict. I enjoy watching it. I didn't the pressure of having somebody else's life come down to your decision is really intense, and I took it very, very seriously. I can't imagine somebody going in there and not taking it very seriously. But yeah, that was my experience at jury duty. Like I said, I didn't want to get too involved in the details of the case, but it was a wild case. I'll just say that. I do believe justice was served. I am glad that we all came to the same conclusion and we were all able to go in. There was a requirement of unanimity on every single charge, and we came back with unanimity on every single charge. So I was very glad that it all worked out like that. I was very glad we had a couple of members who had been on juries before, so they at least had an idea of how the process works. And then to not be able to talk about it for 2 days over the weekend, that was also very, very difficult. You just got to be Fort Knox. You're just not talking about it. You can't look up anything online about the case. You can't look up names of people. You can't look up the lawyers, nothing. Everything, you have to just go into it blind, and you have to just discipline yourself not to participate in the regular world with regards to that case. And you have to basically shut down your life. It was really hard to kind of pick up the pieces and, catch up on work. I missed 3 full days and part of a 4th day. I think half of a 4th day, and had to catch up on all of that work. Yeah, it's not the most convenient. It's not the most fun. I am glad that I live in America where this is the process, because I can't imagine if somebody was just, arbitrarily saying, throwing out innocent or guilty and not having it be reviewed by peers. It kind of comes down to, this is not the perfect system, but it's the best system there is that we have to work with right now, unfortunately. Yeah, Wild West is the best explanation I can have for it. Perhaps if I had had a less stressful case or a less intense case, I might have come out with I might not have had such a stressful time of it and such a hard time, keeping things to myself and stuff, which I did. I was very conscientious, but it was difficult, because it's like, okay, I'm a little down today, and it might be because I had to listen to, evidence with regards to domestic violence for 2 straight days. I don't know, just me, kind of makes you a little down. Anyway, so that was my experience at jury duty. I know I'm kind of repeating myself at this point. If you guys have any questions about the process, what my experience was, anything like that, if you're currently sitting on a jury, please don't tell me anything about your case. I do not want to mess up your experience, because, fun fact, if anything goes wrong in that way, if somebody compromises themselves or a juror doesn't show up, you have to start all over again. And no one wants that. No one wants that. That would suck for everybody involved. So that is my story. Leave me comments about what you guys think. Let me know what you'd like me to discuss. I think my next video is going to be a travel vlog, because I'm about to go out of town. So you might get some fun stuff there. There's also, I'm really, really interested in this JFK stuff coming out. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do a video on it. I also have not had time to delve into that, but pay attention, because the JFK files are coming, and it's gonna be super interesting. So leave me a comment. I wanna hear what you guys' thoughts are on jury duty. If you've had to serve, if you're currently serving, if you're afraid that you're gonna get picked, you will survive it. But that's, like I said, it's a survival thing. You just gotta get through it. You gotta try to make the best decision you can. You gotta realize that there might be other people on the jury that know more and understand more than you do, and it's okay to rely on as long as you're following the logic and you agree with that. It's okay to say, okay, I think this person is correct, or I think this person is wrong. It's okay either way. You obviously have to make your decision yourself, but it's one of those things where there's a reason that there's 12 of you. You've got to come through it and understand, I'm confident in my decision, whether I'm going against what the crowd wants me to do, or whether I am allowing myself to be persuaded by the crowd. You have to feel confident in your decision at the end of the day, because they will pull you and you have to swear. So, and I take these things very seriously. So make sure that you are confident in what decision you are making, whichever decision that is. Allow yourself to be persuaded if the logic follows through. At the end of the day, it's a very important decision. You know, innocent until proven guilty is the name of the game. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the darn bell to get notifications, and I will see you guys on the next video.